Well, good evening. I have been given topic for scaling up roadmap for scaling up the DFS in India. Now, production of any fortified salt is value addition for the industry. So most of the salt manufacturers will always welcome this step. However, if we are going ahead at a large scale, we have to consider some of the points, some issues which may affect the other salt manufacturers. Like we should know what kind of salt is available, what is the quality and quantity of salt, what is the technology which has been made available to the industry, what are the fortificants which are being used and their standards, what is the price, customer acceptability, as well as impact on the livelihood of the other salt producers. Now, I have just given the breakup how the salt is produced and what kind of salt is available with us for iodization, for fortification. About 75 lakh tons of salt is being used to produce about 65 lakh tons of refined salt. The share is vacuum salt is 18%, refined and upgrade salt is 56%, crystal iodized salt, local and branded. There are some companies, big companies, they are also marketing. It is about 3%. And ordinary iodized salt, crystal and crushed is about 23%. Now, the share of this among the salt producing state is 8 districts in Gujarat produce edible salt. Out of course, there are 16 districts where salt is being produced, but 8 contributes for the edible market. Their market share is about 66%. Rajasthan 2 districts 21%, Tamil Nadu 3 districts 12%, other states is 1%. Now, as far as double fortified salt is concerned, it is the refined salt and upgrade salt factories who are manufacturing today. There are about 24 units in the country with the installed capacity of about 1 million ton, and their average production is about 1 lakh ton. Now, this 1 lakh ton is demand driven. It is normally purchased by the government for their public health schemes. Right today, there are 4 states are there: Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Himachal Pradesh. They are procuring salt for their social welfare schemes. Maharashtra, I think nobody has mentioned, but they buy about 20,000 ton of salt every year. Now, if we compare with our successful program of universal salt, what are things available and what are the constraints or the challenges which we will be facing in scaling up the production of double fortified salt? Number one is whatever salt was available at that time when the program of USI was launched, it can be iodized. There was no issue as far as quality of raw salt is concerned. Whereas in double fortified salt, we need about 99% for NIN technology and 98% for encapsulated. Along with that, the magnesium content should be 0.01, sulfate should be less than 0.6, moisture content should be 1.5, and insoluble, of course, remains same. So this kind of salt is not available in all the places. Once we think about scaling it up, we have to take together all salt producers in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. The second issue is about the alkalinity. The salt produced in Rajasthan is alkaline in nature. It contains sodium carbonate and bicarbonates. In addition to that, magnesium bicarbonate is also added as a dehydrant. Of course, we can leave it aside because it is not part of the raw salt which is being produced. Whereas in case of double fortified salt, we need to have maintained the pH of 3.3 to 7.5. That is acidic. People are adding orthophosphoric acid, which is quite hazardous. The third issue is about the process of manufacture. Now, initially, of course, iodization also started with the batch process, but with the time, it has been switched over to the continuous process. But in case of double fortified salt, but it is dry mixing, so batch type process is being followed. It has got a capacity limitations. The cost of production is very high. Of course, one or two fellows, they are trying continuous process, so that the cost of operation and the cost of production is reduced. Then the specification of the fortifying agent. Now, as far as potassium iodide is there, standards have been approved by the food FSSI, whereas for the iron formulation, so far standards have not been approved. Now, whatever is available in the market is being used, and that people are compromising with the quality of double fortified which is being produced. So right now it is essential that the specification of iron fortification or iron formulation should be approved by the government. Now, next thing which has been reported by a couple of salt manufacturers during my survey in 2018 and 19, that ferrous sulfate and SHPM, which is being used for double fortification, it is hazardous. The dust which has been inhaled by the workers, they became unconscious. So people are a little hesitant in using this process. Now, second and the most important thing is cost factor, because ultimately economy of the industry depend upon at what cost is being produced and what cost they can fetch from the market. As far as addition is concerned, it is less than 5% of the cost of salt ex factory. Whereas in case of double fortification, it is 50 to 60% of the ex factory price of salt. It works out to be right now about 2 rupees 50 paisa per kg. Earlier it used to be 3 rupees, but because they have improved the system and then continuous process also has been developed and the scale has become large, so the cost is reduced. It has right now is about 2.5 rupees per kg, which may further go down to 2 rupees 25 paisa or maybe even 2 rupees per kg in time to come. So that will depend upon the scale of operation. Now, iodized salt, there is no change in color, taste, iodine loss is negligible in the Indian system of cooking. Whereas in India, we are cooking, we are boiling it. And I have seen one report which says that 67%, 67 degrees centigrade, this encapsulation breaks. And once encapsulation is break, iodine and iron will come out, iodine will go out. So that has to be taken care of. We have to make sure that the fortificants which we are using is stable. Then most important thing is about the consumer preference. See, earlier a lot of efforts were made. We have to convince the people that instead of taking common salt, you take iodized salt. It has taken about 15 to 20 years. Now again, we will be going to consumers to go for replacement. Means instead of iodized salt, now you should consume double fortified salt. In addition to that, we may have to explain that some black particles are there. You don't have to bother about it. That's what is being mentioned in the labeling in the labeling of the salt procured by the Gujarat. They say black particles are there. It has got no harm. But it is a violation of the food safety law, because in food safety law, it says it should be free from visible impurities. Now, black particles, if it is there, first thing violation will come. Yes, they are violating the law of food safety law. Then 26% population, which I have shown earlier, is consuming crystal salt. It is substantial population. Now we just can't ignore it in them. And from this 26%, it is economically weaker section. It is the upper strata of the society. All group is there. So we have to find a solution how this particular area should be addressed. The next is, if you want to scale up, what needs to be done? After all, it has already been established that double fortified salt improves iron, it improves the iron in the human body. Now, if you want to upgrade or scale up the production, we have to update our technology. The technology should suit the kind of salt which is available with us. Now, in case of some places, sulfate content is more. Now, if sulfate content is more, obviously it will become more than what is prescribed in the rule. It is impossible to remove it. Say in case of Rajasthan, the sulfate content is even in the refined salt is up to 2%. Now, how can we remove the sulfate from the salt? Similarly, in case of the run of Kutch Karagoda area, the sulfate calcium salt content is very high. The calcium sulfate, of course, washing it removes, but not to the extent. Sulfate content, that is also calcium sulfate. Sulfate content is going up there. So these we have to take into account. What are the quality and specification of salt available with us before formulating any technology? Now, I was going through some literature, and I came to know that Argentina is another country which is producing double fortified salt, and that too for the retail level. They are using macronized ferric pyrophosphate. I mean, this salt is not being used in India. I'm not sure what kind of salt is available. We have to study and we have to find out. And possibility of its use in India has to be explored. Now, the next thing is important is fixing standards, as I have mentioned. There should be standards for iron formulation. We should not compromise, because if in case substandard material is added, then the quality of salt will be compromised. The consumers will not be confident about consuming it, and they will certainly will not prefer it. Now we have got advocate capacity for a formulation. I was seeing a couple of questions also. There are 4 units are there which are producing iron formulation, and 2 are very active. They are mostly supplying to the DFS manufacturers. So that is important. Now, as I said earlier, the continuous salt processing capacity has to be developed. It will reduce the cost of operation, because in case the cost difference is about 50 to 60%, it is very difficult to convince the consumers when you are asking him to replace these common salt, iodized salt with the double fortified salt at a higher cost. So we have to give them some reasons why it should be done. Then most important thing is we have to improve awareness. That is most important thing. Most of the places people are just not aware. And if they find, yes, this salt is about 10 rupees, this is 15 rupees, they will always prefer to buy 10 rupees. So there has to be a campaign, because in case of iodized salt also, almost 20 years continuously we have been telling persons, you use iodized salt, these are the benefits. There are so many programs where they are on TV, radio, also a lot of advertisement was there. Ministry of Health was bearing the expenses. There are so many NGOs, international NGOs, they have provided IC material, they have created programs, so many seminars were conducted to make people aware about the iodized salt. Similar exercise to be done for the DFS also. And last, that we need to have laboratory capacity to test the formulation as well as DFS. Because now Salt Commissioner Office, practically they were doing earlier this job. Now it is practically closed. For the Naam ke vaste 10 laboratories are there, but there is no person, most of the posts are lying vacant, or somebody is holding additional charge. So there has to be an agency to analyze the salt, and there has to be laboratory capacity has to be developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ansari.